Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 2nd of December. You're listening to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme with invited guests where we discuss the issues of the day. With you for the next 2 hours, joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo today. We're getting a quick run through the papers. If you've got something that you want to discuss, it could be local, national or international. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Great savings on all Nessun products at Mikolchon. Up to 24 months interest-free. No hidden fees. Proud sponsors of the international news headlines on TRE. Mikolchon for a great night's sleep.
So let's look at those front pages. The Financial Times leads with the news of the Office for Budget Responsibility Chair's resignation after its early budget leak. Richard Hughes' departure follows a review that found the same failures had allowed early access to the spring statement and left concerns that other budgets could have also been compromised. The Daily Telegraph, says that Reeves clings on as OBR chief silenced. Richard Hughes will not now appear in front of a Treasury committee after his resignation, sparing Miss Reeves further criticism when she is already under pressure to resign. In further budget news, council houses worth more than £2 million will not face the new property tax introduced by the Chancellor. The iPaper also runs the exit of the OBR chair in its top slot, although it says he was forced out after contradicting the Chancellor. Relations between the financial watchdog and the Treasury were at an all-time low. After Hughes chose to publish a timeline, it says challenged Reeves' claims about difficulties she faced balancing the books. The Times goes with the OBR chair stepping down after he was publicly rebuked. Meanwhile, The Guardian says that Hughes took full responsibility for the budget leak as he exited the OBR, while Sir Keir Starmer notably failed to express confidence in the senior economist. Meanwhile, the Daily Mail calls Hughes the fall guy for Reeves' budget lies. Meanwhile, The Independent leads on the budget black hole, but with a denial from Prime Minister Starmer that we didn't mislead anyone over it. The Express goes on the speech the Prime Minister made yesterday where he referenced the impact of Brexit on the economy. And he says Sir Keir Starmer made vows to appease Brussels as he scrambled to defend his under-fire Chancellor. Daily Mirror is running a front-page story on the Horizon scandal, post office scandal. There is a claim against an ex-premier and Premiership and England football in the Sun. And the Metro has got Gary Lineker against Tommy Robinson because Tommy Robinson retweeted tweeted a video which showed Lineker with a woman who turned out to be his daughter-in-law. But those, for better or worse, are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 2nd of December. Should you wish to get involved and get your viewpoint across, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And joined in the studio today by Andres Gallardo, who's stepping manfully in. Andres, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Giles. How are you?
I'm bearing up after the...
It was a genuine question of genuine interest on your...
genuine interest on my state.
Correct.
Well, yeah. Up very early this morning, but what are you going to do? I'm just explaining what that headline you see, striker Lineker clashes with the right winger.
No, with the right winger. Yeah, I got it. I got it in the end. It took me a little while, but I didn't know the story, so that why I was... confused.
Yes, well, it's all
to start with.
It's all about social media and getting it out there, and of course, it sparked a huge punch up on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, because Robertson was claiming that Gary Lineker has got a younger woman wherever he is on holiday, and of course it's not. It turns out to be his son's wife, but Robertson still sort of hasn't taken it down, so that's all going to go off in that one. There you go. Anyway.
Yeah, that's the story. Well, I don't want to go into football because last time I mentioned my team.
Oh, of course, yes.
that was terrible. Since then they've only won 1 point in all the matches they played. So I'm not going to mention not even the name, just in case I'm jinxing them
again. So let's have. If you want to get involved with the show, it can be a local issue, it can be a national issue, it can be an international issue. I'd love to hear from you. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Studio@tre.radio is the email. There's nothing social about social media. Thank you, Richard. Good to have you with us. So, looking at we still got this sort of massive fallout because the last Viewpoint we did was the day before the budget, and now we have had the budget in the UK, and obviously it was going to be interesting for Reeves, to put it mildly, and now there seems to be this whole debacle afterwards about who knew what and when, and we call into question once again, politicians being called into question of, are they telling the full truth? Is it sort of a lie? Is it a mystery? Is it a white lie? I mean, where are we, Francesca, with politicians? I mean,
but I took the interest of looking at the budget when it came out, and my first reaction was, well, it's a typical budget of a typical Labour government, where you're looking at increase on welfare spending, you're looking at taxing middle classes more, so they contribute towards the financial situation the UK faces, and it was very much what you would expect from a Labour government. That's what people voted. That's what they're there for. So my first reaction wasn't completely negative. It wasn't in the markets. I checked hours later to see what the markets were doing, and they were holding up. So there was no collapse in the stock markets and so on. That sometimes it's a reaction when you present a budget that the markets react positively or negatively. It happens with that Prime Minister, what was the lettuce woman? Liz Truss, that's the one.
That's disastrous minister, yeah, of course.
That had a big impact on the markets. This one didn't. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, welfare spending is gone up. Now, some of the media have reported the welfare spending, or they're paying more to the unemployed. They're not encouraging people to go into work. Not all welfare spending is just to pay unemployed people. There's also pensions and other payments that they come from the welfare.
But it's the whole thing about this is a budget that supports the benefits stream.
That has been painted that there's doing. It is in a way they've increased payments on the social payments, and there's a big criticism from the right-wing media towards that. In my opinion, rightly so. But I mean, you can sort of have different views on what's needed there or not. There is quite a funny one, which is the claim that they've made. Reeves said it on television. I saw her saying that, and I've heard some other media left-wing representatives saying, we have taken out 500,000 children out of poverty. Well, that's a lie. That is not what is being done. I mean, they have made maybe 500,000 children marginally better off, but they haven't taken them out of poverty. Saying to take them out of poverty is like saying they're having fresh orange juice every morning, the latest technology on their education, and a new wardrobe. That hasn't happened. They are being marginally relieved getting a little bit more money, but not taking them out of poverty. That's a wild claim that makes headlines, or they think that they've done a grandeur gesture by doing that. But the reality is they haven't taken anyone out of poverty. These people continue to be poor, but they are marginally relieved of their situation with a little bit more money. But it's not massive. If you look at the figures, it's just a very small amount that they got. So it's not taking them out of poverty. So that claim, to me, it's nice to say in the media, but the reality is not what they're saying.
I mean, in many cases, in many respects, this is the sort of budget you'd expect from a Labour government.
It is. Well, that's what I said at the beginning. It is what you expect from a Labour government. There's other things that they're positive, like freezing the rail cost, which it had to be done because it's so expensive. When I go to the UK and I use the train, I'm thinking, oh my God, how expensive it is. I'm complaining about the prices of trains in Spain. I mean, the high-speed train I find it very expensive. But if I compare it to the UK, it's still quite cheap here. So freezing that is a good thing. There's a few bits that they've done that they seem to be, helping. But certainly it's not the solution to that. And the burden on middle earners of more taxes is something that is not going to go down very well in terms of popularity. I've made my views clear on the situation with taxation. I think that any government now, we are in all the Western Europe, especially countries that got a welfare state. We've got a situation where I think we are already taxed to the maximum. So the margin of movement
wiggle room, as they call it,
in the taxation system is very, very little. So a Conservative government or a Labour government can touch the tax a little bit, but not much, because they can't put it up that much more, because we already pay a lot, and you cannot drop them significantly, like some parties are now claiming that they're going to do, like reform, because the welfare state bill is so expensive that it has to be paid somehow. The reality is that there is no balance there, so we are still in the Western world, we're spending more in our welfare systems than what we get from the taxation, and we are left borrowing more and more and more. So the borrowing cost keeps going up, and I think the budget should be looking at trying to balance that so we don't continue to borrow money, because the interest that we pay is such a big amount of money that is not being spent on what's really needed. We're only paying interest on borrowing. So when you pay your taxes, you would think, okay, I pay my taxes, but I'll see the result at the end of it because I'll have better services and better things. But the reality is a big chunk of your taxes that you pay, they go to pay an interest, a bill that comes from the borrowing. So a whole, rethink of the whole system, because we are in a circle where it's like, just explaining, it's like paying a credit card bill with another credit card. So I think it's quite simple to explain. And if we cut welfare spending, people are not going to be happy about it, because we've learned to accept that that's a given. So all the roads and the health and the education and all the things that we're not going to do without it. No government that wants to cut that is going to be popular. On the other hand, you have to pay for that, and we are at a point where you cannot tax people anymore. We are taxed already, not only the UK, but in the whole of Europe. We're taxed to the point where we cannot pay anymore. Otherwise, they're going to make us poorer and poorer. And this is what is happening. I mean, the budget from Rachel Reeves, I fear that is going to make people slightly poorer, the middle classes who weren't before, and some people are going to struggle.
Yeah, but I mean, you can argue that this has been a demographic thing that we've been heading towards anyway, because we've got more and more people reaching what used to be retirement age, and the retirement age gets bigger and bigger.
That's one of the problems. The retirement situation. People retire and live longer, so there's a longer term for payment. We all know that. We also know the health system with more treatments and more kind of service that they provide in all sorts of the health, the whole of the health spectrum. It's more and more expensive for more and more people because populations are increasing constantly. Here in Spain, we've gained 10 million people in a very short period of time. So all these people, they're going to at some point access the health system and so on. So all the welfare bill, the state bill keeps growing, but there is no room to grow on us contributing towards it. So that's where the governments are finding a situation where the only solution to avoid having to cut back on our, what we expect from our welfare is to borrow. And borrowing, we all know, is a bad thing. And when you say that sort of Spain is growing in terms of population, that doesn't mean that Spain is having more babies. It's just more people coming into the, or more. I'm going to drop the I word in a minute, but you see where I'm going with this, because people are coming over to live in Spain, and others would accuse them of taking advantage of that welfare system, or the health system which they don't have in their own countries. Well, hold on a second. I mean, there's more people coming from abroad. A lot of the increase in the population come from immigration. I'm not saying that every single one of them take advantage of the system, but rightly so, they use the system. So there's more resources needed to cover that. But that not only happens in Spain, it happens in the UK as well. It happens in all over Europe. Germany is in the same situation. Italy, France, all of the countries where we have a welfare state. As soon as you accept people coming in that they are part of our society, they also automatically get the right to use the welfare system, which makes it more and more expensive, and there very little room to grow in getting money in to pay for all of these. The borrowing that is already existed, but we are at a point where we're borrowing too much. I mean, the borrowing costs in Europe are crazy. And it's a shame to see. I mean, it breaks my heart to see the part of the taxes that I pay, that I happily pay to have a good healthcare and a good education and a good, all of the things that we expect, are not going to pay for that, but only to pay for the interest that we have accumulated by borrowing too much. So who is going to be brave enough? This is the question. Who is going to be brave enough to break this cycle and to find a way of putting this right? I say brave enough because certainly taxation has to be looked at. The welfare has to be looked at, and there's going to be, it needs to have some cuts of unnecessary things, and to identify what's necessary or not is going to depend very much on who receives that benefit. And finally is, how are we going to pay for all that without the need of borrowing, and how can we renegotiate all that debt so the taxpayers' money that big chunk doesn't go just to pay for interest. Because we don't see a benefit of that. So that it's a big reform, and I think it's the kind of reform that should be done not only by one country, but a certain good number of countries that they say, well, enough's enough. We need to get this sorted, because otherwise, eventually, we will have no money to pay for people who retire and for treatment in hospitals and so on. We're going to get it to a point of collapse.
But to get a sort of a pan-European sort of agreement on
a pan-European, that's what I was looking for earlier.
That would be more or less impossible across all of them, wouldn't it? Because we would see them say, oh, well, this is, the EU interfering. I mean, the UK wouldn't have anything to do with that, because they're currently sort of, I mean, the way that the UK is at the moment with the budget, it seems to have become this again. It's a personality thing. It's now we seem to have the papers saying that Reeves and Starmer are sort of bound together and they're in this together. And if he goes, she goes, which is what some of the papers are saying. So we go to some of the WhatsApps, which are +34 645 99 67 95. Morning, Richard. There's nothing social about social media. People still whinging, whining, and moaning about the budget. Be thankful we have a surplus when the proverbial hits the fan again next year. The markets reacted prior to the budget when the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, released the answer sheet. Andres, do you know the difference between relative and absolute poverty? Meanwhile, the British right-wing media are clueless. The tax burden on Brits is really quite low in comparison with other EU nations. Both the UK and Spain could be taxed more, regardless. There's nothing paying off one credit card with another card as long as the new rate is 0%. Do it every time I flip debt like this for over 2 decades. Borrowing costs are not crazy. Right. Okay. Thanks very much for that. Meanwhile, if you want to get involved with this show, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
There has of course been another poll by YouGov in the UK about this, saying that 37% thought that Miss Reeves made out things worse than they really are. It comes an in-depth look at the public reaction to the budget by YouGov. Just 8% think the budget would leave the country better off, or 2% would leave them and their family better off. 52% in the UK think the country would be worse off, and 50% think their family would be worse off. This comes as the latest Sky News Times YouGov poll showed Labour and the Tories are now neck and neck among voters. Two parties tied at 19% each behind Reform UK on 26%, while the Liberal Democrats are on 14% and the Greens are on 16%. However, they think that Labour's economic competence has declined further post-budget. I think we're just seeing people going, you know what, the Labour can't get it right, the Conservatives can't get it right, we're just going to go for somebody and take a punt at the moment. It's a very long time now before another general election, but you tend to think that people are just angry with the situation and all this faffing around about saying who got what and where and what was a black hole, did you know about it? It's just not helping the cause any further, is it?
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the proposal, the taxation proposal of reform, is unassumable. Funnily enough, I was reading the manifesto for Vox, which is very similar to what Reform UK would propose. And to be honest, some of the things, and I can understand their popularity, they're growing in popularity because they're claiming they're going to do things that they seem very popular. They're dropping the taxes so much. It's, you know, and at the same time, when you look at it in detail and you think about it, you realize that what they're claiming they're going to do, they can't do it. It's just impossible because there are things they cannot do because of current regulations, so they would have to change all that. Some others are pan-European, so the European Union will have to have a say on some of the things that they're proposing. And then the numbers, if you look at the numbers, I just did very quick calculation. I'm not a numbers man, but I did a quick calculation. So it's never going to happen, but it's very popular, or populist, I should say, and hence the growth, you know, because they're talking of maximum tax of 20% and this and that, you know. I mean, some of the, I can't remember the detail, but in any case, it seems music to my ears when I hear how low the taxes would be under their government. But then you think about it and say, yeah, hold on a second, who's going to pay for the rest of it, you know? But
it's very easy to make those sort of claims when you are in opposition.
Of course, and that's what they're doing. And the worst thing is that if they ever win an election and they get to power, the difficulty they're going to have is going to say, oh, you know, all those things that we promised to get here, we're not gonna be able to deliver it for a number of reasons. So we're gonna have to be within the parameters that the other parties move. Because if you look at the Labour budget, and you look at any other budget from Conservative government, but the margins are very, very small. You can't say this is a big difference between one or the other. They are moving in those margins to try to satisfy everyone, and that's a very dangerous road to take, because you're never going to satisfy. And well, the polls are saying 52% are not happy with it, so that's half the people are not happy with it. But they are trying to all the budgets try to satisfy everyone. You can't do that, and that's the situation they find.
But it's a budget that also kept kept a cap on the backbenchers from Labour, because this was to keep. I think the budget was also put together in an effort to keep the party quiet, because there have been various rumblings, within the Labour Party.
The pre-budget situation, I don't think they've managed that very well, because there was a speech done by Rachel Reeves a month before the budget, trying to justify the budget when we didn't know what the budget was. So I think that was a bad move. The leak from the OBR hours before the budget, that's another another mistake there, that those things shouldn't happen anyway. And the fact that she quoted a financial situation for the whole country that wasn't quite accurate, and that was she's being blamed for saying, presenting a picture that wasn't quite the reality, and someone had to come behind her, some financial institution, to say, look, you said the country was in dire straits, when really it wasn't, because there's been more income coming from subsequent to inflation and higher salaries and so on. So there's been more money coming in than assuming that is coming. So all of those things are not. They haven't managed the delivery very well. That's what I'm trying to get to.
This perhaps is the underlying feature of this particular Labour government, is the fact that their communication skills are sadly even worse than Partido Popular's.
Yeah, you can say that.
I can't quote anything that he said. He's just a grey man, which is no bad thing. In the same way that Starmer seems to be, he might be a great, lawyer or whatever, but in terms of the actual to inspire people, he just seems to be playing that sort of middleman role. And I know we've been through charismatic prime ministers, Johnson, etc., but they need somebody who doesn't default, who doesn't seem to sort of go back and he seems to be a sort of a blank canvas in the worst sort of way. I mean, they're saying here that it's come down to the fact that the government U-turned on a number of its welfare reforms over the summer. It came down to the fact they wanted to axe the 2-child benefits cap, and on top of this, it came down to the fact they wanted to raise their headroom, which is what you're talking about, the wiggle room, against the fiscal rules from 9.9 billion to over 20 billion. These are all perfectly logical reasons to raise tax, though some will disagree on the wisdom. But here's the key thing. They are the Chancellor and the Prime Minister's decisions. They're not knee-jerk responses to someone else's bad news. However, when the Prime Minister explained his decisions, he focused mainly on that OBR report, and he quoted selectively the £16 billion number from the project for the productivity review without acknowledging it's only one part of the story. That's where the mix-up comes. So it's not good, to put it that way, and it's opened up again the press who were waiting for an opportunity to pile in.
Yeah. Also, all of the speculation before the budget, it's been quite negative. Because some people were. I've heard it because my friends in the UK and everything, they were telling me that they were trying to rearrange the finances so in preparation for this big tax hike that they're going to get, so putting, assets in the name of children and this and that before they were hit. But there was nothing concrete on it for them to act upon. It was all pure speculation. And I think that kind of speculation is bad because make people first be very nervous. With nervousness comes a lack of confidence. So there is an aspect where they will not spend money and they'll be cautious. They'll make decisions based on what it might happen with the budget and try to protect their money from the hands of the government and all of those things. I think they're generally negative, so I think they should keep up. I know there's always a speculation when the budget is coming. I understand that, but this time I think it was like over the top. It was constantly in the media, and as I said, people reacting to what it might happen. Without it was quite, as I said at the beginning, quite expected. In terms of a Labour government is going to deliver that kind of budget. I could have guessed most of it. And they haven't done anything absolutely unexpected in terms of their ideology.
This coming in from Paul, it says, saying, Paul, this is really the leak. The Office of Budget Responsibility had already published its investigation on the leak. The PDF document was available on the website from 11:30, an hour before Rachel Reeves delivered her budget speech. Someone had recognised the URL pattern from previous budgets and accessed it by simply changing the month. The naming convention was caused by a WordPress plugin which created a public guessable link to the PDF. Then that someone tried 30 times since 5 a.m. until successful. What's going unreported is this happened before under a previous Tory government, but this wasn't reported in the press. Also, the press are backtracking post-budget. They claimed that Reeves would announce a black hole in her budget, which never materialised. Looking at you, Chris Mason, Robert Preston, Andrew Marr and Ed Conway. Thanks for that. Meanwhile, I repeat, Sir Keir Starmer does not need to appease Joe Bloggs. Charismatic, don't you mean a clown? Give me boring over a show. Here's a novel idea. Get rid of the budget and just introduce a new policy as and when one needs to. Why have this pomp and ceremony where policy leaks consistently? At this rate, Uncle Nige will be in power and the British electorate will know what the sharp end of a kebab knife feels like. I love that saying, Richard. The sharp end of a kebab knife. Back after this break.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. Viewpoint with you for the next 20 minutes before the break, and then another hour, of course. You want to talk, get involved with Viewpoint. If you want to talk about something local, national or international, get it off your chest. These are numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Now, brace yourself, because there's been another corruption scandal in Spain?
No.
I find it hard to believe.
Yeah, hard to believe. This is the story of this powerful minister that started his ministerial career when Sanchez became prime minister. He was his number two. He's like, sort of thinking head of the party and the government. Is this guy called Ábalos.
So he's like the intellectual powerhouse behind it.
Yeah, something like that. He became super powerful in the party. Of course, Sanchez was always the head of the government and the image of the party and everything else. But behind the scenes, and not so behind, because he was a minister for infrastructures anyway. That minister is the one who plays with the biggest budget of all of the ministers. So he's the guy who touches more money than anyone else. Well, this guy, he was dismissed by Sanchez at some point, out of the blue. He said, "Sorry, you're not minister anymore." So they made few changes in government, but mainly he got rid of him. Surprisingly, he then went back to the list. In the next election, to the list of the Socialist Party,
candidate.
and he came out as a member of Parliament again. everyone thought this is a very strange move because he's his right-hand man, if you like. Now, after that, he suddenly got involved in a corruption scandal to do with PPE and masks. Buying, in China or whatever, and then all of that came out, and apparently there was a big corruption case where they were taking money on these contracts they were signing. Some of the material that was bought was faulty, but nobody asked for a refund or anything. That was just and he was very influential to get all the administrations to buy from the same source. So the regional governments and so on, they would liaise with the minister to get all of these purchases and these contracts sorted out. And apparently, there were commissions paid that were illegal and so on. So now, because of this particular case, this week, the judge, because the trial is going to be very soon, the judge says, well, there is a risk of this guy could flee. So this super powerful politician, right-hand man of Pedro Sanchez, is gone to prison. Along with his assistant.
He's not been sentenced yet.
He's not been sentenced, but the judge has said, there is a risk of him fleeing because the accusation is they're asking for 24 years in prison. For what he's done on this particular case. So the judge says, well, if they are asking for such a long prison sentence, there is a risk of him fleeing, so he will await trial in prison, so he doesn't escape, basically.
He was, let me get the timeline, he was Minister of Infrastructure when we had the pandemic?
Yeah, correct.
And then afterwards he was suddenly...
Yeah, there was... Well, during the pandemic, the Prime Minister, Sanchez, decided there would be 4 ministers who would manage the whole situation.
Right.
It was an extreme situation, and there were 4 ministers. There was the Defence Minister, the Health Minister, the Home Office, and this guy. Don't ask me why, but this guy was one of them.
Infrastructure, I suppose. I think
well, it was, yeah. So, and that's what what's happened since. I mean, this is one case, but since then they've discovered that he was involved in more cases of corruption. This same guy, with his successor in the party, as an head of the party, if you like. Who's also involved in other corruption cases. So Sanchez, the Prime Minister, and his 2 number ones in the party, the ex-minister
yes.
and this other guy, involved in corruption cases. These other corruption cases, which the trial is not been set yet because they're in the process of being investigated, and the judge is, he already sent one of them to prison, but it's come out again. It's all very complicated, I know. But it's a different type of corruption. That is on public infrastructures, where the government instructs companies to do roads or tunnels or bridges, that kind of thing. And they've discovered that there was a corruption case where a company could allocated the contract in exchange for a payment being made to these people illegally and privately, so they could, dispose of that money. And they're talking around payments to one particular guy of about nearly 7 million euros in illegal commissions. Quite a bit nice little pay for someone. But yeah, all this is being investigated. So the PPE case is going to trial soon. These other cases are still being investigated and go to trial in the future. But they're all involve the closest allies of Pedro Sanchez.
Yes.
Now, of course, you would say, what are they doing about it? What's happening? Now, Pedro Sanchez has been very clever in sort of trying to encapsulate all this corruption into these 2 guys. He said, there's 2 bad apples. They've been doing all these. There's nothing to do with me. The rest of the party is clean. Just leave us alone. We're doing a good job. Now, my question here is, if he's such a close ally of the president, and they were doing all these. The question is, did he know about it? The public opinion is divided. If you're a socialist voter, said, oh, he didn't know anything about it. And some other people said, of course he knew about it, and it was probably part of it, I don't know. It's bad if he was involved in it, because you're talking corruption and you're talking the prime minister. So if he knew about it, that would be very, very bad.
Yeah.
But I think it's equally bad if he didn't know about it, because you are responsible for these guys. You appoint people that you trust to do a very, very important job, and if they're on the take and you don't know about it, it's that you're useless. So in both counts, he doesn't come out, in my view, he doesn't come out very well. One, because if he was part of it, it's really bad. If he didn't know about it, you are so useless. What are you doing being prime minister?
Or he knew about it and kept a lid on it until it was impossible to anymore, which would be even worse.
Yeah, all of these, because then you have another situation. This minister, who's now in jail, he also came out with all the investigation and everything else that he liked the use of prostitutes, so he was paying with public funds or money that should be the taxpayers' money to
ladies of negotiable virtue.
Correct. Yeah. So, and that is that's another story. I mean, the amount of money, but I mean, he gave a job to one of these girls in a public company, with a salary, with a holidays paid, with a social security paid, and everything else, and she would never go to work. It would be like a ghost job, She'd be being paid but never attend work, And when the line managers complained, this girl is not coming to work, the upper instances, we said, you shut up about it and, don't mention it. There's nothing to do with you. The minister says, she can carry on not coming to work and getting paid every month. I mean, that to me, I know in terms of the amount of money, because I mean, the post was, minimum wage or just above the minimum wage, but it doesn't matter. What I think,
the optics on this, Andres, are appalling.
I know they are appalling, but I think exactly. One is
the paper has been the party of equality for women's rights. Absolutely, the whole
feminism, the whole thing. And to do something like that is terrible. But not only that, but the message that you send to young people who are studying to get a position within a public company or administrator, and they work very hard, and they get their degrees, and they go study for their exams, and they prepare the interviews and everything else to get a miserable job, right? And they work so hard for it, and then suddenly that job that you're working hard for goes to some lady that,
Yeah.
So that the optics are terrible. I know that they say, well, he claim. Oh, I don't know why people talk so much about it. It's only a small amount of money. It's not the amount of money in this particular case. It's the damage that he's doing to society in general and to his party. I mean, come on,
it's hardly the point of a 21st century modern Spain to be using the services of sex workers, and I mean, this guy he's not like I would expect that from in the 80s or the 90s for the PEP and the return of the 5 pasha around lunch, etc. And then
it's funny because there was in Catalonia and Barcelona especially in the Franco years, there used to be all the industrialists, people who owned big factories and everything, who were with a lot of money, and it was commented in social circles that they all have mistresses, that they would pay for an apartment to have the mistresses living there, and they would have family life back home with a wife and children and everything, but they would have this mistress waiting in this apartment paid by this. But I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, well, it's no different to what happened then. He said, yeah, the difference is that these people pay for it with their own money, and this guy is paying with public money. So that is a difference. So you got all these corruption things. They're all surrounding Pedro Sanchez. Also, her wife is involved in another court case that's Sanchez's wife. His brother is also involved in another corruption case where he was given a job made up for him. He's a musician and he was given some kind of job in a public entity.
Providing music in the background.
I have to say, I looked at his CV. His CV looked quite good as a musician. Yeah, but they created a job for him to have a, so it's all his inner circle, if there's such a thing, are all involved in some court case of some kind of corruption, different, things. Is an unsustainable situation, in my opinion, for him, because on top of that, politically, he's lost the support of Parliament, so he cannot legislate. It's been like this now since this Parliament was formed, but now it's to the point where there's been a visual rupture with the Catalan nationalists. Puigdemont, he said, "I'm not going to vote anything in favour of the socialist government, so nothing can be legislated without those votes. So we are at complete standstill. I think I mentioned in this program before, your listeners might remember to say, this Parliament hasn't seen a budget. Now, we were discussing Rachel Reeves' budget, exactly, yeah. And I felt, whether you like it or not, but I felt jealous that you have a budget to discuss, where we haven't got that in this whole Parliament, You might think, it's not such a big deal. You got the previous budgets that you are operating on those and everything. Well, let me just remind you, there is a constitutional obligation for a government to present in Parliament the budget every year. That's an obligation that they have, a constitutional obligation. And they have failed to cover that. So if you put all of these things together, the fact that they haven't got a Parliament and so on, makes the situation untenable. And let's see what happens.
So we'll see after this break.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively, taking in a whole kaleidoscope of subjects, and joining the studio by Andres Gallardo. We're talking about the sort of corruption, the culture of enchufe. I mean, nothing is getting done. Andres.
Well, I mean, we just said, while we were off air, we seem to accept it quite well because we're used to this kind of cases, flourishing, and then finding these corruption cases. There's been since the Felipe González era, then you got the PP more recently, now you've got these. So it's a constant stream of corruption cases and not only at central government, you've had it, the town halls as well. Yeah, we had a big case here in the media of Marbella in 2003.
And the Arte.
Yeah, so it is a constant... this, I think, is one of the main reasons why currently Vox are on an upward trend in terms of the intention of vote, because a lot of young people now who seem to be where more votes are going towards Vox from young people. They haven't seen these before, and they see that the only ones that they're not tainted with corruption at the moment are Vox. For the simple reason that they've never been in power and they've never been in a position where they can be corrupted. So people say, well, there's no corruption in Vox. For that reason, I don't know if they see it because of that. So that is an option that we should take to sort of, and also have an alternative to what we've seen from PP and from PSOE, the two main parties. They're both as badly. Well, to be honest, I think the PSOE is worse than PP, but that's a matter of opinion. You could, disagree with that, and I'm happy with it if you do. But the reality is Vox are capitalizing on this situation, and they're growing incredibly.
Because it's very easy to, because their ideas are simplified, it's very easy to see on social media posts, okay, we'll do that, we'll tax that, we'll get rid of these people, etc., etc.
It's pure populism, and it's one thing that that there was a poll. They were asking young people, would they give up some of their freedoms in exchange for maybe easy access to housing and better paid jobs and that kind of thing. Yeah. And they will happily accept that status quo to say, okay, I'll have less freedoms, I won't be able to do this and that, but at least I'll have a house and a job. So it's incredible that a whole generation fought so hard to have freedom and to be part of the free world. Exactly. So for these kids to come along and say, oh, we're not bothered about these, we just want,
We just want Wi-Fi and broadband and
exactly. So it's a terrible situation, but it's been driven by having consecutive corruption and scandals like this all the time. And I have to say, in defense of Spain, we're not the worst case country for corruption cases.
We'll be talking more about this after the national and international news, which is up next.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain. Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Always live, always lively with you for the next 50 minutes or so. If you want to get something off your chest, it can be local, national, international. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
It's a thing that happened, and it was on Bob's News broadcast a minute ago. They said they've broken up. Police have said they've broken up this thing called a link to a sound called The Base, a white supremacist group, which has been called a terrorist organisation. 3 people were arrested in Castellón province. 2 firearms, 7 training weapons, ammunition, and more than 20 knives, tactical gear, and neo-Nazi material. They're saying that, here we go, the youth support for nationalist groups and renewed debate. The Base is a neo-Nazi group in the United States promoting accelerationism.
What?
Accelerationism, which seeks to hasten the collapse of democratic institutions through violent attacks. So it said the suspects were highly radicalized and conducted paramilitary training. Okay, and they used social media to recruit people.
And that was in Castellón, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And there's 3 arrested.
Yeah.
So
cell.
Not an army then.
Well,
No, it's dangerous enough. These cells can do a lot of damage. I haven't heard about that one. But in the current climate, it's not surprising that people are taking radical action. I think,
as I said before, it's people going, okay, well, we're not happy with this. Everybody else is going through the same old answers that aren't working. So therefore, we're going to go for something completely new and smash them. We're going to smash the machine, as the saying goes. Which we kind of know where that leads, if you will.
Yeah, it's terrible that people can radicalize to the point where they have weapons and plans to cause damage.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Of course, I think it's only a small group, and for what you're reading there, they've been arrested. So well done to the police. Doing their job in that sense, but that's just to prove that people are looking at, not as extreme as that, of course, but looking at more radical options, and hence the growth in the options of Vox as a potential party to take over. But look, in Catalonia, for instance, this is quite an interesting one. In Catalonia, you've got the pro-independence parties, yes. The 2 main parties there, one to the right, one to the left, but both seeking the same thing, ultimately the independence of Catalonia. Well, now they've got a 3rd party called Catalan Alliance, who are right-wing, but really right-wing, anti-immigration, but also pro-independence. They want the purity of the race of Catalans to prevail and to throw out of Catalonia all the immigrants and everything else. And that is now becoming one of the main parties in Catalonia. The growth has been in the last 12, 18 months has been incredible in the intention of vote. We will see when the election comes to see how this growth materializes, because you never know. But it's incredible that even the pro-independents can take that radical view to say that the two traditional pro-independence parties are not delivering what we want. We want something more radical. We want, the supremacy of the Catalan race, if that is, you could call it a race. I'm a Catalan myself, so I don't consider myself being no race at all, but just a normal citizen. But what I'm trying to say is that these radical options are growing more and more because of the satisfaction that people have, especially society are incredibly dissatisfied, and especially young people. And in a way, you can understand when you realize the situation they're faced with. They cannot leave their parents' homes because they've got nowhere to go. They cannot afford to become independent. They cannot afford, all the jobs that they get are not well remunerated. So it's a difficult situation.
And we've got a caller on the line. I was expecting this. Good morning. Live on TRE. Morning.
What do you mean you was expecting? Why was you expecting it?
Because we actually commented. We were like, okay, so fine. So how are you? How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. And yourselves?
Yeah,
you all right, Andreas?
Yeah, good.
Having had a week off.
Yeah,
to rest.
I carefully listened to your interventions last Tuesday, Alf.
Yeah.
No, that's all. What do you want me to say?
You can't finish a sentence in
What
middle.
do you want me to say? That I agreed with everything you say?
No. Just like you talking about Rachel Reeves and Starmer and the UK budget is called. Yeah, okay. Let's say British politics at the moment has got themselves in a little bit of a pickle that they can't unpick because Badenoch hasn't been above being, ridiculous. They attack from the wrong angle. They've got, what's his name, the Shadow Chancellor right into some accounts committee or whoever they are. And you go, that's not how politics happens in the UK. So why are they writing to some third body when all they've got to do is go into the House of Commons and ask a question? Because that's what they're entitled to do. I find it all very fascinating, this stuff. And the budget stuff was, needless to say, I found it all bizarre.
How so?
Well, because they had announced all the different bits that were going on. The only thing I was expecting that didn't happen is I was expecting them to, the bombshell of we're going to raise income tax. That would have been the first time in 30 years or something. And they never mentioned it. And they say, oh, that's because we found all this money. They haven't found anything. And what that, the leak of that document from the OBR, people, if it happens once, you go, oh, well, it's a mistake. If it happens twice, you go, something wrong here. When you find out it's happened more than twice, you go, is there a conspiracy here? Is there something going on that says...
No, as the saying goes.
Well, I don't know if it's even a mole. And by the sounds of it, it's called... They tried to justify it yesterday, not justify, but explain on the television. They said it's because they haven't got anybody who deals with IT working for the OBR. So they put this stuff out, and they didn't understand that, Joe Public, being Joe Public, can get into the systems and somebody's released it. It wasn't somebody from the OBR releasing the information. They put it onto their website early so that, some clown later on didn't have to push a button at whatever time she finished and sat down to say, and here's what the OBR report is. Right. So they did it early, but it was supposed to be held in some sort of secure site. And you go, hardly secure. And then you go, but do you not? You've never heard of hackers? Nothing they put on to a computer is ever going to be safe unless you absolutely got 50 million firewalls and experts dealing with it. But no, the OBR have got some guy who tampers with computers on the odd occasion.
Well, this was the thing, is it seemed to be, this wasn't hidden behind a firewall. This was just somebody was just literally keyed in OBR budget.
Absolutely.
And Shazoom, it was there.
And what do I say? I'm not being funny, but all of us say, the banks send you a thing, never do this, never do that, never do this. Don't put information onto your computer. It's not safe. And you go, so this is a huge organisation, a government-funded organisation that has about 30 people as it works for them, who deal with high-power financial stuff, not just at budget time, but all the year round. They've got, secure information that shouldn't be released to Joe public unless it's allowed to be. And they haven't even got anybody who understands about simple things like hacking. Unbelievable.
You get things like people always like MOD guys leaving briefcases on the on the train and all that sort of thing.
They're simply accidents. But this is just. And the guy's resigned. You go, well, not being funny. When I went to work, if somebody did something wrong, you got charged of it, and some people got dismissed. But you certainly went through a process of being given a talking to by a manager if you did something wrong. In this case, it all seems as like, oh, well, he didn't really mean it. They didn't really mean it. And all the stuff with the BBC as well. It's like, what do you mean? I know they didn't mean it, but they are in charge. And as Andreas quite rightly said, what was it you said about the guy, Sanchez? Well, if he appointed him, he was wrong for not knowing about him. And if he didn't do that, then he was wrong for, he's an idiot for not knowing what the guy's like, and he's an idiot for letting him be there if he knew what he was like. So no, but it's because they're in charge. Sanchez may not have known anything about this guy, pretend, or he could say he didn't know. But at the end of the day, somebody has to stand up and say, I'm responsible for that. And in this case, it's this, whatever he's called, chief executive or whatever.
Hughes from the Office of Budget Responsibility. The way that this is being framed now that Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer are now sort of tied together, as if they're going to go both, as if they're joined by the hip, and it's their way or the highway. That's what a lot of the press, I mean, although it's obviously hostile press, have been saying that this is sort of they are both now joined at the hip sort of thing.
But this isn't new. People, I'm not sure. I suppose because I was involved in organising organisations inside the Labour Party who collectively put teams together, usually to fight the left. But you put organisations together in order to deliver something. Well, people have short memories. When we had a guy called Michael Foot as the leader of the party, everybody knew we would never get into power while we had Michael Foot or that type of. Now, I say that type of person. I don't mean him as an individual. That's not what we say. It's called the politics of what you're trying to do. The longest manifesto in history. Right in your own death position. So you had to change. But in order to change, you didn't lurch from Michael Foot left winger to some, alternative James Callaghan or Harold Wilson or anything like that. So you have to form a coalition within the party, and the coalition that was formed was between what we term the soft left and the soft right, and you end up with Neil Kinnock.
Yep.
He was the centre man. And what Kinnock did is he took on Militant, he took on the extreme left, he took on the extreme right, he took on people who didn't have a belief in, the forwardness of the Labour Party, i.e., it's all well and good being in a political party not in power, so long as you don't want to be in power. But most people who join political parties want to be in power, as we see with Sanchez and the like. As you know, I've always said, you go into politics to get into power in order to change things. You don't go into politics to have a good time. Sure. That's the last thing you'd ever get out of a political party, a good time. So what's happened this time round, in order to get rid of that Corbynism, and remember, it's not just Corbyn as an individual, it's a philosophy that runs through from the ideologues of the left, who we want this type of thing. And his manifesto wasn't far short of Michael Foot's manifesto. And the first thing you say is, well, we're going to get smashed at the polls. And what happens? We get smashed at the polls. Right, we've got to change it. So you're looking for a compromise all the time. The complication that the Labour Party have had this time is that, the biggest union in the UK, Unite the Union, which was formed of a number of unions, the biggest of which was the Transport and General Workers Union. And anybody who was around British politics for any length of time knows that the Transport and General Workers Union, driven and organised in the main by communists. Some of them were Labour Party members, but the majority of them, given their credit, were purists. We're communists, and this is the line we take. And part of the difficulty that people don't understand in the main, with the employment bill stuff, you put a left-wing view up that says that you get full cover from day one of employment is very good in essence. But then you find out that when I was an official, and you're taking out industrial tribunals, which is what this is about. This is about people going to work are protected by an industrial tribunal from day one, which is very difficult. But the first thing you found out is the Transport and General Workers Union reps and officers. They put tribunals in for anything and everything. So this guy's banged to rights. Why are you taking out a tribunal for them?
Just sorry about it, because I've got some other bits and pieces coming in. So, do you think?
So the top and bottom is that the Labour Party have got a difficulty with the unions, and they've got to appease the unions, which is why the two-child cap and all of that has gone by. It's pure politics. There's nothing, nothing other than pure politics. The last thing is, you mentioned the news. Did you hear the latest one, that they found a way of reducing the prison population, haven't they? Because another 7 prisoners have been released wrongly. 2 of them are still on the run. When are they going to get the police service in the UK sorted out to stop these people from escaping? But it is keeping the prison population down and creating a few more.
Very good, Alf. As always, good to hear from you, Alf. Thanks for your points of view.
And really seriously, Barcelona, after what Andreas was saying about what's going on in Catalonia and all that, tourism in Barcelona, I think, is going to take a bit of a hit now, isn't it? If we don't want all you foreigners. Okay, we'll see.
No, not that one.
We'll see where the money comes from.
Right, thanks. Leave them with a laugh, as the saying goes. 952. Thanks, Alf, for calling. 9484000. Thanks for your call in there.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Right, always live, always lively. 32 minutes or so of this morning's show to go. Sheila, good morning to you. Good programme. I can relate to all you and Andreas are saying, okay? And Cookie's with us. Greetings, panel, says Cookie.
Oh, Cookie, nice to hear from you.
She's up in Galicia now, I think.
She is, in the north of Spain, yes.
Right, okay. A vote for Vox is a vote for PSEO.
In a roundabout way, she might be right.
Or PSO, or POSE.
Socialist Party,
or whatever, or might be some Mexican currency, the peso, so you never know.
Yeah, what she's trying to say there is that Vox might not get a majority, and that might help the PSOE to get a majority with other residual political parties.
I'm just getting worried about all these little...
It's a long shot, but she might be, the only time will tell. But one thing I'd like to say, just going back to what Alf said, I normally don't like to sort of set the record straight or anything like that, because this is an opinion program, so you have your opinion, and Alf has got his, and I let him just express his as much as he allows me to express mine. But there is this thing about the anti-tourist demonstrations and so on. Let me just put this straight. The anti-tourist demonstrations is just a handful of people who've been picked up by the media and giving a big speakers, but I can assure you it's a handful of people. There's no one in Spain who wants... no one in Spain doesn't want tourists, because a large part of the Spanish economy depends on tourism. It's about 12-13% of our GDP. So... people welcome tourists. We've been welcoming tourists since the 60s. There has been a wrongly identified problem with housing by a small group of left-wing nutters, I have to say.
Right. Before you go off on about left wing, the tourists go home, and those idiots who went on the bus that time with the wars.
Yeah, that it has been magnified by the media, and it's only a small group of people who have misidentified a problem with the amount of tourists that come and visit. Thinking that the problem with housing and the problems with pricing and inflation and so on is created by tourism coming, but. The great vast majority of Spanish people don't agree with those views, because they don't have tourism doesn't have a negative impact in Spain, and everyone recognizes that. It's a big industry, and we have done very well out of it. And I think as a product, Spain is one of the best countries to sell the product of tourism abroad.
However...
Okay, you go.
Well, because it's very interesting, because the way that the Spanish political parties have picked up on individuals, and I'm talking in terms of individual letting or individual, people buying, right, and gone, right, we're going to shut down Airbnb, we're going to shut down book, we're going to do this. So, and they are saying, it's people buying houses, and it means that the honest, hard-working people can't get it. That's a very easy fix. By saying it's the evil foreign investor, it's the people who are coming over and having parties in Barcelona, and that doesn't. No.
But just look at the essence of the problem, okay? The Airbnb situation, where you have tourist apartments, it's something that is fairly new, and it wasn't legislated before, and it's caused a problem in some areas to have so many. Let me just tell you, when you buy, when the regional government set out a capacity of hotel rooms in an area.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a bit like when you go to a concert and you can sell 5,000 tickets to a concert, because that's the capacity of the venue. You cannot sell any more than 5,000, because if you sell 10,000, you're causing a problem, because people are going to, be trampling over each other and everything else. This is in a simple way of explaining what's happened with tourism in Spain. With the Airbnb situation, the capacity has been increased to a point where it cannot be, sort of absorbed by the areas. So that, once the problem is there and it's been highlighted, it has to be legislated, and it has to be put into use for the good use of tourism in terms of the capacity of the areas. Okay. And also in the good, in the good life around the communities,
around the community. I get it.
And that has to be put into place, because it comes down to regional governments. Regional governments are the ones who are putting the rules and regulations in place. And that is taking place now. The fact that a bunch of illiterate people decided that the ease down to tourists coming to Spain, that concept is not accepted by the majority of people in Spain, because we, as I said, it's a big industry. Yeah. We're good at it, and we are very successful. We're the second most visited country in the world in terms of tourism. We don't want to destroy that industry. The truth also is that Spain not only depends on tourism, there are other industries. Now, someone mentioned Catalonia in your WhatsApps. Yeah. Let me tell you, the province of Lleida, who's never seen a tourist ever.
Where's the province of Lleida?
Lleida is in Catalonia. It's right. One of the 4 provinces that form the region of Catalonia. Yeah, it's a little bit inland. That's where I come from. We've never seen a tourist there. They've never seen a tourist ever.
It could be the face of the Lleida tourist
maybe in the Pyrenees where they go skiing, but not many. It's one of the most one of the richest regions in Spain with the lowest unemployment. So, and there's nothing to do with tourism. It's because the primary industry, which is livestock and agriculture, is very, very strong and very, very rich. Yeah. So, and unemployment is very, very low. So, let's put things into perspective. Don't think that if there are 4 angry British in London who decide not to come to Spain and they're going to go to Turkey instead, it's going to crash the economy of Spain. That's not going to happen. The people in Spain are not against tourists. And in Barcelona, they've got the added problem, and it's a port for what do you call them? Cruise liners. Exactly. That's it. And that is, sometimes you get 2, 3, 4 cruise liners, and suddenly you got La Ramblas that descend like 15,000 people in one go, you know. And that, of course, is, local people say, what the hell is going on here? So it's something else that has to be regulated for the good use of the city and to contain the capacity that we can take on tourists in certain times and certain areas.
However...
Good, Giles.
Breathe, right. However, could you not argue that this is being used as a political football? And my point being this is because people say there's a housing shortage, people haven't got enough houses. This is because of a lack of planning. When Spain the Spanish banks were lending money to people to build these ghost urbanizations that we see dotted throughout Spain, a waste of money, a waste of foresight, a waste of infrastructure planning. We go on about this, and this is the problem now that we see. And I'll tell you how it's going to end up, because obviously people are getting priced out of markets. They can't afford to live in the gentrified areas, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, Barcelona has a proud city with a long independent tradition, and obviously if you're a abuela and your family have lived in this street for generations, as several will have, you're not going to be happy with influxes of tourists. But my point being, the hotel lobby has always been very strong in Spain because of what happened during the tourist boom in the 60s. Okay, so they've got vested interest in keeping in getting rid of Airbnb independent rentals. At the other end of the spectrum, obviously, not the package market, which was the one who originally got the tourists coming over from Sweden, from the UK, etc. All inclusives won't be affected. The people who are going to be affected you're going to have super lujo tourism, like we see down the road here, yeah, with the brand names, the Gucci sunbeds and the Dolce Gabbana beach plank and the whole thing, and then you're going to have the all inclusives, and there's going to be nothing in that market for either foreigners or Spaniards themselves, because they can't afford to go and stay on the Costa de la Luz with their families like they used to be able to.
I don't disagree with you, but it's a matter of planning. And one thing that we haven't been good at is at planning and planning ahead. I mean, you've got the situation on housing building, we for affordable housing. Yeah. We had a period of very low interest rates, even 0 interest rates, and the opportunity wasn't taken by any administration. You got the situation now where to develop, first of all, land, because it's very scarce, and there's hardly any land where you can build anymore, is very, very expensive. The process for developers to get the the planning applications, the architect's fees, the taxes that you have to pay before you put a brick on is very, very expensive. The cost of building is piling out of control. So you cannot build a house or an apartment block and sell it for below the cost of what's cost you to build it. Yeah. And that is what's happening now. You've got a situation where you've got, these companies have to invest, and the end result has to be a profit for them. Otherwise, they're not going to invest. So the houses become very, very expensive. Yeah. And because we don't have a growth in the economy enough to support the growth in wages, we have a situation where a lot of people in the middle are cut out of the equation, where they cannot afford to buy these houses, and there are not enough. Those who can afford it, they're fighting to buy those houses, which means the demand is higher than the supply and prices go up. So, but this is a lack of planning for many, many years that has been happening, and no administration, whatever party's been in power, have been able to predict and act upon. And it's something that needs to be corrected, like many other things in Spain, but this is one of those. But to have a bunch of people criticizing other tourists that they come to Spain to spend their money is something that is not supported by the majority of Spanish people.
Here's a thought. We have to change, thank you, Richard, we have to change the way we build properties. Traditional bricks and mortar is expensive in a slow way. Let's go modular.
Yeah, I mean, there's some companies who do modular building. It's cheaper to produce, which is fair enough. The land is still going to be expensive. The planning applications are going to be expensive. The taxes to the councils are going to still be expensive. The building side is going to be cheaper, which will result in slightly cheaper houses. But also the culture has to change, because if you say to someone, buy a modular house, they frown upon, thinking, oh, is that going to be substandard? Yeah. Which probably is not, but, you know, people might think that it's substandard in that they prefer brick and mortar, traditional, that kind of thing. So there is an element of changing the culture of the buyers in terms of changing what they're buying. But it is true that it's a matter of planning, and to, you know, as I said, during the times where the interest rates were so low, there was a great opportunity for administrations to jump into it and say, look, this is a chance to be able to finance at the zero rate the building of social housing, for instance, you know, that kind of thing. Now, we got so deep into the problem, like with many other things, like immigration, like climate change, like everything else. You get so deep into the problem that you cannot reverse the problem. You have to find solutions with the problem built in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but we all know the headaches is coming then. It's just the optics, because you then get, you know, people see Mallorca demonstration.
It's been reported everywhere in Europe that the headline is Spanish don't want tourists anymore. That's wrong. I'm sorry, but that is wrong. That's not the truth. But they've capitalized on a few guys, you know, doing protesting here and there. Wrongly accusing tourism of the problem of the housing problem, because that's not caused by the tourists. The tourists don't have anything to do with it. They just come here, enjoy the holidays, they leave their money here and they go. The problem comes from the administrations and the politicians who haven't been able to plan ahead a structure where capacities are controlled and people are welcome here.
The thing is, and this is going to be, here comes my next curveball, all right?
Well, throw away.
Okay, so here we go. Right, ready? Now, we're looking backwards. We're looking at the 60s, when the first package holidays came, okay, and the Swedes and the Northern Europeans all came down here, yep, and the English, the Irish, the French, the whatever, looking in the wrong direction now. Because the cruise markets, places like Barcelona, places like Valencia will shut this down, won't want to handle cruise markets, because they want a high-spending, educated bunch of strata who spend a lot of money on their thing and cause no trouble. And that's why most of the major town halls, the delegados de turismo, are in China. and getting that money in, because they're dropping 2,000 a day.
But I think that is a mistake, and that's lack of planning, because just to focus on this super luxury market long term is not going to be a good thing, because that what it does is creates it's happening in Marbella, for instance. If you look at Marbella, you had a few spots of luxury places where super rich people will go to. You and I wouldn't go there. There's no.
Talk about yourself, dear.
Well, I mean, I don't go there. I can't afford it, but it's fine. I know that it's there, and it's like, that's the circle, if you like.
And yes, said.
As that is being promoted and grown, more and more of the town is become it's marketed towards that kind of market, leaving the local people and people in medium incomes, if you like, shut away from it, having to have to go and buy houses far away from town or rent places far away from town, and leaving the town to the super rich. And that, I think that in the long term, that's a bad thing, because if something happens and they decide to leave, you are leaving a town with no resources. So that middle market has to be also looked after and have options to, sort of live side by side with the super rich.
The thing is, you can have.
And Mallorca is the same. Ibiza is the same.
But it is because you could argue it is, and we've gone all over the place with this one, but you can argue that because you've got a brand. So let's just pluck a brand out of the air, whatever, by saying, okay, Fendi Beach Bar, or you've got Giles restaurant. I'm an international brand of luxury restaurant, okay, Le Giles, right? And I've got LA, London, the whole thing, and I bring Le Giles down to Marbella, okay, with all the thing, and the mayor comes and we shake hands as Giles of Le Giles. You need to get the staff. You need to get it's all very well having the branding.
That's what
you need to train the staff up, and you can't get that from here. And eventually, you may get the instant generation and people wanting to buy Le Giles beach towel, but eventually people go, well, it's not the same Giles as it is in Dubai, or is it in London, or is it is in LA, and that is the problem, and also you could wake up now and not know if you were in Dubai. I mean, I've called it the Dubaification for a long time. I've been warning you about this, but because eventually everywhere starts to look the same, because it looks great on an Insta thing, and people want to go to the same Starbucks at a lower level or the same Le Giles restaurant because they know what they're going to get.
Yeah, but I mean, the staff is a great example of the situation. I mean, you've got a tourist industry marketed towards the super rich, but it has to be serviced by people on lower incomes, and that's where the problem is.
And so from Andalusia, which could be very interesting.
Yeah, but the big players, the players with money, they can set up, like, I won't say names, but they can set up.
We know.
Yeah. You can set up a little hotel up in the mountain. Indeed. With all the staff can stay. And then you ship them to work every day, and so on. But the smaller players, they don't have the money to be able to accommodate their staff. Their staff have to find their own home, and you haven't got homes for that kind of people on those incomes. And that is where, when you run out of the local workers who have already got a home before the boom, you will find the younger people kind of come here. They kind of move here. And that's, you're talking about restaurants and hotels and everything else. But I'm talking now, nurses, porters at hospitals, even doctors cannot afford to come here. So there's a shortage of doctors as well, because doctors, when they get this post, they say, well, no, I don't want to go there. Can't afford it. That's happening in Ibiza. You've got policemen, you've got teachers at schools.
That's a geographical problem as well, as we are here, because you cannot go further back because there's a mountain. You can't do anything else in Ibiza or Mallorca or Tenerife because they're islands. Or do you say, okay, I tell you what, we're going to take over that luxury hotel. It's not been used for ages. We're going to make it social housing. I'm not even going to mention about the place down by Monteros, the Third Age place, the huge.
Oh, you got the
you know what I'm talking about. But that, I would have thought that would have been a progressive. What I would have said, right, okay, that's going to become social housing, or it's going to be housing for people working in the hospitality industry. And no, it's going to be
another luxury. Yeah. But this is what I'm saying about a lack of planning. You know, we're not planning ahead. I mean, the councils, the town halls are seeing that by developing this kind of industry, if you like, they are getting a lot of revenue from new developments and from, all of these. So they are thinking of the revenue of the town hall and not the welfare of the people there. And that's going to be, this is a time this is a ticking bomb, because, in years to come, we will see the result of what we are, what we are planting now, and we are going to see the results of that. And unless something is done, we may have a problem where we cannot service the super luxury that we're getting.
Torremolinos was the place to be in the 60s. You couldn't move for Brigitte Bardot falling out of some hippie place, and it was rock stars, and Torremolinos has reinvented itself, but it certainly isn't. You wouldn't see your modern person going to Torremolinos. I completely forgot what I was going to say then. Damn. Continue. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but what I wanted to make sure is that people understand that this media frenzy of saying that Spanish people don't want tourists in Spain, it's not true.
Just try going to France.
You can go wherever you like. Just a liberal as I am, you can do whatever you want. But for you to know, with the knowledge that if you come to Spain, you'll be welcome.
I'm just trying to think. What's Fox's? Imagine being the tourist minister for Vox. That must be a great job. Yeah. Quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. Just to let you know.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Giles Brown.
He's an angry elf.
So, now the reason I played that is because we are now officially in festive season.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Actually.
Now, come off again.
Now that Richard Gere has turned on the lights in Murcia, of all places.
But just by looking at them.
No, he turned up there. So Richard Gere got on the stage and turned on the lights in Murcia.
For festive sake, Richard, thank you very much for that. FFS. For festive sake, yes, indeed.
So Richard Gere was the one. Yeah, he loves Spain. Well, I think he's married to a Spanish girl. Yeah. So anyway, he turned on the lights in Murcia. Banderas did it in Malaga. Antonio Banderas.
Iglesias just like smart.
But I think he does everything in Malaga, doesn't he? Antonio Banderas, whatever something happens there, Banderas is there with carrying the flag.
Yeah.
But it's festive season for sure. All the lights are on in all the high streets and everything.
Oh yeah, Malaga, the Larios and everything.
And now we have our bank holidays bank holidays at Christmas.
Now you see, this is the thing, because this is the sixth. So one is the Immaculada? Is it the low flying Virgin of the? Is it the Little Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence? I mean, one of the six is the Dia del...
The six is like Inmaculada, no?
Inmaculada. Concepcion.
Correct me if I'm wrong, those of you got Google there. But I think it's the celebration of when Gabriel, the Archangel Gabriel, announced to Mary.
What other Gabriel were you thinking? The Archangel, as opposed to the third spear carrier.
No,
Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel could be.
Peter Gabriel, okay, yes. All right. Yeah.
Anyway, Archangel Gabriel announced to Mary that she was pregnant with the Son of God.
That's the one.
And this is bank holiday in Spain. We're celebrating that.
She would need that.
But the 8th, which is another important day, is a bank holiday because it's the celebration of the approval of the Spanish Constitution in 1978.
Right.
But in the calendar, they fall in December, both of them.
Yes.
They couldn't help it. And close to Christmas. So commercially, you could argue that why have bank holidays so close to Christmas, in the run-up to Christmas, when it's a time where people spend more money and, it helps the economy and the time. But now it seems that a lot of the businesses have got the gist of the loss of money, the loss of money that they've got during those closing days, and most of them open, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't go to shops much, but I think most of them are open.
But
anyway.
if you know, and also if you know how it operates here, because obviously when the Puente falls, so when it's a Tuesday and a Thursday,
that week,
that's the key. You might as well book it. Book
it's a whole week off. Yeah, totally. This one, I think it comes.
Saturday and Monday.
Saturday and Monday, which is not too bad.
So I presume they'll take them. But the first day is the Immaculate. So Saturday morning, Gabriel saying to Mary, sorry about this, but...
I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't want to think what Joseph thought at the time. But anyway...
Vox, right?
So, yeah. Right. So that's and that's the run-up to Christmas. So, yeah, festive season is open officially.
Until the 5th,
7th, 6th, 6th or 7th.
The night. When do the Three Kings rock up? Is it the night or the 5th?
I think it's the 5th or the 6th.
No, it's got to be the 5th.
It's got the 5th and the 6th. They deliver the during the night of the 5th. They deliver the things, and then the children open the presents on the 6th.
And then then
on the 7th, you're supposed to go back to work.
And then you bite to Roscon and break.
Oh, the bite to the Roscon. Oh, I forgot about the Roscon. I'm going to get one this year.
Great song by the police out.
Sorry?
Roscon.
The Roscon is very nice.
Yes, Roscon is very nice. Okay, we're rabbiting now. Right then, almost out of time. It has been my pleasure, I think. Oh, no, sort of little. If you want to get your last, I was going to say your last Christmas gift. No, but do you think it's? I mean, do you think Cortilandia, etc.? Cortilandia, which is the no, you're not. Okay. Some might say that Christmas in Spain now takes on this sort of gargantuan proportion because it now runs from the 6th of December, basically, through till the 6th of January. I mean, it's a whole month. I mean, for Spanish parents, obviously, of our generation, you just got Three Kings.
Yeah, but I think we start Christmas a little bit later than in other countries, because I've noticed in October you start getting on British TV.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know now, but I used to be when I was there. In October you start getting Christmas adverts. You don't get that in Spain so much, so you get it a bit later. But it's too long. To be honest, it's
too early.
Too early, too long. There's no need for that. But I was saying to someone the other day, of course, if you got kids love all that, and they like the lights and the colour and the expectation of the presents and the family getting together and all that. So for families, it's a different thing.
Poppy Garage said, roll on Easter. I'm expecting my Valentine's card at any point now, obviously.
Yeah. And then we got Valentine's and then Easter and everything. Not all over again.
Yeah.
But hey, that's good that we can celebrate it because that means that we're here.
Indeed. And also it means that obviously because we're allowed to celebrate it because we haven't done what the young people say, who have a strong leader who would obviously banish all things like that. For example, now Valentine's is an American invention, as they were trying to do against Halloween. If you were reading the manifesto of a certain right-wing party, was saying no Halloween because it's...
No Halloween.
Yeah.
No. Well, traditionally, the All Saints... The All Saints thing was a religious thing, and now it's become Halloween. It's just fancy dress and
every day
it's changed. Is it all right to import that kind of thing? I don't know. I haven't got an opinion to say if it's good or bad.
Well, Andres, you've had more. You've done some sterling work today. Thank you for managing to actually keep me on and my caffeine-addled witterings as well. Thank you all as well for your calls in and also your WhatsApps. This show is going to be reported. It will be repeated and probably reported at 7 o'clock. I'll be back tomorrow with Let's Talk from 10 in the morning, all things being equal. Andres Gallardo, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Giles, as ever.
This show will be repeated at 7 o'clock. Stephen Ritson is up next. I'll see you tomorrow.
expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.